Hey guys, this is Eamon. So in this video, I want to talk to you about something that I know a lot of contractors are always asking themselves, which is, should I advertise in the winter, specifically with Facebook ads? Should I start my ads up in the winter, or should I wait until closer to spring? And unfortunately, there's not a one-size-fits-all answer. I'm going to run you through all the considerations, but I actually spoke about this in a different video called When You Should Start Running Ads. I spoke about it more generally. I talked about, is there a bad time to run ads? So I recommend that you give that video a watch after you finish watching this one. Now, something that you probably already know is that there's just a seasonal demand for house painting services, okay? Doesn't matter what kind of marketing you're doing, there's always going to be just less demand in the economy. And obviously, it starts taking a nosedive around October, right? November slows down a bit, then December is dead quiet, especially with the holiday seasons, and then continues into January, February, and then it starts to pick up steam. Then you get up here and you feel like you're on top of the world. And sometimes you forget to plan ahead. You just get so busy, you forget that winter is coming and that you should prepare for that. But the point I want to make is that because there's going to be less demand, whatever demand there is left, it's going to be more expensive to actually get that, to actually capture that demand, or to generate it. And I've made a video on this difference between demand generation and demand capture. So this is why advertising in the winter is going to be more expensive, and you might not be as profitable during this time. So that's something to keep in mind. I'm not saying you can't make a profit during this time. You obviously can. You're selling a really high-end service. It's not like the lead costs get that high. You're just not going to be as profitable as you would be during this time. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, when it comes to should you run ads, now I think you should consider running them if these things apply to you. If your budget, whatever you're planning to spend, if it allows you to pay the higher cost per lead for a while, now maybe you already have an idea of what the cost per lead in your area is because you've been running ads, you just want to know if you should continue running them. But if it's the first time and your budget allows you, then I'd say fine, give it a shot. But at the same time, you don't want your budget to be too low so that it takes forever to generate results. So that's one thing. Another is that you're able to make the most of every lead because these leads are going to be more expensive, so they're going to be worth more to you now than if you were getting them in summer when the leads are cheaper. So you want to make the most out of every lead. You want to make sure that your speed to lead is on point, your appointment setting is on point. You've got a repeatable process. I've made a video on this called how to increase your set rate from your Facebook leads, which is really important because it's just about being more efficient. Because you're spending the money anyway, might as well put in a bit of effort to, get a bigger return without having to increase the budget. Third reason is maybe you want to get a head start on your competition going into spring because Facebook is basically just a data hungry machine, okay? And you're asking it to find your audience. You're asking it to find homeowners in your area and who are the type to, respond to ads on Facebook. That's a lot that Facebook needs to do. And if you get a head start on all of that, and you've got all that data in your account, then Facebook already has an idea of your audience in your local area. So you're going to have a head start on your competition going into spring. Now, obviously, that's provided that you've been generating good quality leads. And I've made videos on this, how to increase your lead quality. And the last reason is you just want to stay top of mind for homeowners in your area so that when the time comes, when painting season actually opens up and they're ready to get an estimate, they're going to come to you, okay? Because they've been seeing you, they're going to come to you at least first. They might get other estimates, that's only natural, but they'll definitely come to you first if you've been, in their face this whole time, been making a mental note every time they saw you. So if these things apply to you, then I'd say, yeah, give it a shot. Now, some reasons not to run ads during this time is if you're doing it alone and for the first time, trying to learn during slow season might give you the wrong idea. So what I mean by that is that results are going to be slower than normal because there's going to be a learning curve either way. And the learning curve during winter, during your slow season, it's just going to be a lot steeper. So that's something to keep in mind. And obviously, if your budget is too low to get traction, then again, the results are going to come in very slow and you're going to get the wrong idea. You're going to think, oh, well, Facebook just doesn't work, or they just don't work in my area, or maybe my ads are bad. And your ads might be perfectly fine, okay? Maybe you watched my video on some of the best ad creatives and you followed it. But because people just aren't looking for these services, even when they see this really good ad, they're just not going to respond to it as readily, okay? Because you have to remember that these are people at the other end of that ad. So it doesn't matter how good your ad is, at the end of the day, they're not going to get their exterior painted or even consider getting an estimate for it, during December. And these are obviously just broad statements. There are obviously going to be some people like that, but it's going to be harder to find them, which, like I said, that's why it's expensive to actually find them during this time. And the third reason, which is the opposite of what I said before, is that you've got no reliable appointment setting process. So even with all that, let's say you've got the budget, if you don't have automations on the back end, for example, which which I talk about on this channel, and you don't have a calendar so that people can book their own estimates in, at the very least, okay? Because being able to call leads within 5 minutes, I know that's something that only a minority of people are going to be able to do. But those first two, like I said, like that's just been democratized at this point, and you really should have that going on. But if you don't, and you can't reliably set these estimates, or maybe you don't have a script that you run people through, you're not going to be able to make the most out of these leads. So you're going to be paying a lot of money during this time for leads, and you're not going to be making the most out of them. So your costs are just going to balloon. Your cost per estimate is going to balloon, and your cost to get a job. That's also going to be a lot higher than it should be if you've got a really low set rate. So again, that's something to keep in mind. If you're having these difficulties, then I say there's no point trying to run ads during this time because you're probably just going to waste your money. Now overall, like I said, you definitely can generate leads and estimates during this time, but you're just not going to be as profitable. But it's going to be enough to keep your crews busy and to make some profit on top, just not as much as you'd make during your peak season. The best thing to do is to scale your budget in the spring all the way up to the fall until maybe you get diminishing returns. And like I said, the spring and fall, that's when leads are going to be cheap until you get diminishing returns. And during that time, just book jobs for the winter. Book jobs for the time when the leads are going to be more expensive. Now, obviously, you might have to maneuver some things around to get people to agree, but it can definitely be done. Maybe even offer them an incentive. You know, if you guys paint with us in November, December, whatever it is, we'll have you ready for the holiday season. A lot of people will take you up on that offer. Now, I've made a video on expectations for Facebook ads when you start running them. I highly recommend you give that a watch. And I mentioned during that video what to keep in mind, especially for the winter season as well. So there's going to be useful stuff in that video. And just all those numbers, just take the higher end if you're running ads in the winter. But you'll probably find this really interesting if you're looking to make this decision now. That's everything I've got for this video. I hope you found it useful, that it's helped you to make your decision. And if you're looking to generate more estimates for your business, or you'd just rather talk to somebody about this, then you can book a free consultation with me on my website, and we'll have a conversation. I'll leave the link in the description and the top comment. But other than that, thanks for watching.